And the same process, basically you open up the sides. And once again, you'll see how well packed these are because there's another box within this particular box. It also says this side up, and the arrows are there as well, which helps direct what you're going to do next. We're going to do what we did before. We're going to open up the side flaps. There's this flap to deal with here in a minute. We're going to tip it over, pull up on the box. Set that aside and put it back up to this side up. We'll cut through this portion of it once again. And this is what you'll be basically looking at as you open up the top of the box. We're going to unpack this. We're going to put this over to the left side. You have the items that you need for your distiller on the right side of me. Separate this on the lid. There are components, so always be careful what you have with your distiller, that you don't inadvertently discard things that you're going to need. So we're going to take that aside. We're going to place him here on the left. What we have here basically is a package that has your faucet head, and a sight gauge for you to look at. And here's a line which we'll discuss and show you what it is to be later. I'm going to tilt it on over again just a bit. I got my hand on the bottom, on this one side of it, so it doesn't inadvertently fall down. I'm going to bring it back up to this position and finish unwrapping it. And what we just simply do is set this aside. There's nothing on the side. We'll pull our wrapping away. Set this down. Now when I've got this up, you're going to see two components. They're going to give you two views. And this is the micro switch float control gauge. And here, this particular component is actually your float. If you notice, there's a stem that comes up, and this float controls the stem. Sometimes when you get this in shipment, it might be a little bit off. It might be something like this, okay? All you simply do is line it back up, and you're just fine. You also may see something like this, but please be careful. This is your float stem. Okay, that's adjusted. You'll see that this is the float and what it's attached to. So we'll put that back in there. Again, careful with the float stem. Placing that squared away. It looks like a key here. You just move that back around and set it here. I'm going to bring this around in front so that you can see how we put on the faucet. And once again, I'll take this out and be most careful as we put our hand into the distiller reserve tank that we don't tweak or bend this. Now here's our faucet that we're going to install with the distiller. And by the way, there are instructions with them as well. And we're going to place this right down here in this particular position. Again, instructions are in your bag. But before we do, we're going to loosen it up so it's a lot easier for you on install. And we're going to basically screw, let me just show you it this way, thread it so that your nut has less resistance. So just run it through once, quite simply, before you put it within the distiller. I'm going to set that aside. Same with this ring. This ring is made so that you have no leaking going on, and we'll put that down here. That's going to go on first, and you can kind of almost try to screw it on in. Now this is set. This will end up being on the outside of the reserve tank. As you can see, it's worth it to spend a little time to put it on because it is nice and tight and secure on your threads. Okay, now once we've done that, we're ready to install the faucet. I'm going to lay this here on top for you to look at and know that the way we're going to install it is in this method. We're going to take the float back off, again being very careful with the float stem, and we're going to set that aside. And here's where you have to be just a little bit careful and have a little bit of patience. We're going to set this up here. This is where this is going to end up. We're going to be placing this nut on the inside of the reserve tank. So watch this again closely. This is the way it's going to end up. I'm going to lift this up carefully. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. Place it right down here. Get the faucet. Now here you have to have a little patience and a little dexterity, not a lot, but a little bit, because you're trying to find the particular threads with your head, and you can't see, of course, so it takes just a little bit of patience. So in this particular method, I'm finding it easier to actually just hold the nut on the inside and turn the faucet. It is sticking up over the edge, so we can do that. Now I'm clamping onto the nut so it doesn't move. I've got a lot of resistance, and I'm bringing this back up to 12 o'clock without the internal nut loosening up. And now you're set to go. There should be no leaks, so always check for that to make sure, but be confident there'll be no leaks. But always double check yourself. Now remember, at this particular point in time, we've taken our float back out. This we haven't tweaked. We've put a little stress on it this way and that way, but we've been really careful not to bend it or tweak it. I'll pick this back up. Set it in here. It needs to be set in this particular key slot, so I'm going to turn that around, lift it up, and this mechanism is in place ready to work for you. See, there are two holes up here at the top. We're going to wait to see how this lines up to see which hole we're going to end up capping. And this is the black piece that you're going to use to cap the hole that's not being used. We'll just set that up here in front for a second, and we're going to use this orange piece too as a cap, as a dust cap as well, to for our system. Now we're ready to put the head on the tank.